What's up, guys? Welcome back. Minutes later, here we are back in front of this 2020 850 Can-Am Outlander. Today we just finished wrapping up the clutch kit, and I just buttoned up that video for you guys. And now we are going to, as promised, start on the lift kit. So today we are working with a super ATV lift. It's basically collars underneath the spring. So by the looks of it, it's going to consist of removing the spring and strut complete, taking it to the bench and using the spring compressor and installing that. Now I'm sure there's other ways to do it. From the looks of it, I do believe you might be able to do this in the machine, but for today's purposes, we're going to do it properly and use a spring compressor. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that step by step. And after that, we'll achieve this lift. So here we are. All right, so we're gonna begin by lifting up the machine and getting our socket to take off the wheels. On this machine with this setup, it's a 17 mil thin wall socket. Let's go ahead and take them off. Okay, now we got the wheels off. You're gonna get access. This is starting on the left front wheel. What we're gonna do is remove this plastic piece so we can get to the top bolts that bolt to the frame, similar to the ones on the bottom here. So now the goal is remove top and bottom bolts. Okay, realistically we don't need to remove that because it's now a two-piece, which I did not realize. But we don't need to get it out of the way completely. We can just move it out of our way, and then yet we can continue to work. So it's a 15 mil nut and a 15 mil bolt, both top and bottom. Let's go ahead and rip this shock out. Now don't be afraid, guys. It's really not going to fall down on you because you do have your sway bar link there, so it's not going to just fall because the other side is holding it up still, right? So we are half out. We just got to get the other side now. All right. And now our strut is out. We are ready to go to the spring compressor. Right on. So, back here in the spring compressor, I'm sure you've seen this tool in another video before of struts on a Hyundai Elantra. But we've set up our strut in the spring compressor here, which I do recommend you use. And we are going to apply pressure to compress the spring. So as you can see, our strut is now loose and our spring is compressed. The goal here is to pop the strut out of the bottom so we can put the collar between, the spacer between the bottom collar here and the spring. We're nice and loose now. We can go ahead and slide the pieces out of the way. I will show you guys in a second what this consists of. So, you have two top mounts here. I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but slides in here, rather, and the other slides in here as well. And then the spring goes in between, and this saddles everything. These, when installed from the factory, one is 180 from the other, so that the spring, or that these cannot just walk out. So this is one side, this is the other side. So when you have the spring separated from these guys, you just got to rotate them so that they line up, and then they can slide off. Now the bump stop might be in your way, so you got to lower the bump stop a little bit, but that's not a big deal. So, okay, here is our spacer that's going to go underneath the spring. And how it's going to go on is, from what I can see, the best way to do this is remove this factory piece that's here, slide your spacer down. I found it seats nice with the taper downwards. Then reinstall this like so, and then slide the shock body into the spring. You're going to need to compress the spring quite a bit to do this. From the looks of things here. So, press your spring, lower your bump stop, slide the strut up into the sleeve, or up into the spring rather, and then slide your two pieces on, starting with the small one first, and the big one second. Now you want to rotate one of them 180 degrees from the other, so they do not kick out on their own. Now as you remain centered, release tension off of the spring with your spring compressor. And just watch that everything is going in. It's nice and square and centered. And there you have it. The spring is loose. We are locked into place. We are ready to go back into the machine. So back to the machine here. We have the shock slid into place. We're going to go ahead and install our bolts. I'm going to actually start with the upper. Start the nut by hand. Leave a few threads. And then the lower. Go ahead, tighten everything back up. That upper hose is a little bit in the way for this install. I don't know if it's the same if you do not have a rad relocate or not, but this machine does have a rad relocate, and therefore that hose is slightly in the way for the upper bolt. Now we're going to go ahead and install this splash shield. And that right there buttons up the left front. Okay, here we are at the back of the machine. We're working on the left rear, and same as the front, 1, 2 nut and bolts. Go ahead and remove those now. For the top, it's kind of hard to access because you have the factory shield for the exhaust. You might need a couple wrenches to do this part. Rear is out. Okay, here we are again with our rear strut set up in the spring compressor. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the front, which is compress the spring and slide these pieces out. See, our strut is beginning to get nice and loose. When you pry these top pieces off the spring and rotate them, same as the front, to line up the two grooves in order to slide them out of the way. Again, you're likely going to have to pry down your bump stop a little bit. Slide both collars out on this strut. Now, same as the front, we're going to go with collar, or spacer, whatever. Plastic spring holder on top of the collar. Fire it back into the hole. Press this guy a bit more to accommodate the spacer. 1 and 2, and gently release the spacer again, making sure that everything stays square and centered. And that's it, guys. Just that quick. We are ready to go back in the machine. Okay, so like the fronts, we are going to go in reverse order of removal. We are going to install this bad boy again. So the fronts, these two needed to be lined up the same, but for the rear, this and this are perpendicular from one another. So go ahead, pass the bolt through. And start your nuts. Tighten both down. And now that both of those are tight, that pretty much wraps up front and the rear installation. Well guys, that wraps up another installation video for you today. Now we are able to take this thing for a rip and see what it can do now that we have a little bit more ground clearance. I did one on the front and one on the rear, as you guys can see there and there. I'm gonna do the other side right now, but the same applies, so don't stress about that. But tighten everything up. I recommend the spring compressor. It makes life a lot easier. And guys, I hope you learned it. I hope you're confident to tackle it now. So we're gonna ride it now, and I'm pretty excited because it's been raining the last couple days, so we can go see what a little extra ground clearance can do and compare it to the Polaris. So should be pretty exciting. Remember guys, always full throttle or no throttle.